10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Live from the road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, this is the NTT IndyCar Series. With complete coverage of today's practice, this is the IndyCar Radio Network.
18 hours of programming plus headed your way over the course of the next couple of days here at the world's greatest race course. Sidebar James, welcome to the Gallagher Grand Prix as we get preparations underway for race weekend here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Indy Next, NTT IndyCar Series, Xfinity, and Cup. Davey Hamilton joins us. Davey, it's a wonderful time of the year, is it not, to have all these outstanding forms of motorsports at one great place?
You know, it really is. It's exciting. You get to see a lot of our friends that we don't get to see much over on the NASCAR side. So having everybody here the same weekend, the same track, and by the way, the greatest racetrack in the world, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So exciting weekend, a lot of program, as you said, 18 plus hours for a lot of you guys on here, counting all the Cup time, air time, plus the Xfinity, Indy Next, IndyCar, as you said. So it's going to be an action-packed weekend. The track has cars on it pretty much all day for the next 2.5 days.
Yeah, for sure. Fans are going to get their money's worth throughout the course of the weekend. Fingers crossed. Looks like Mother Nature is going to cooperate, which is good news. And so the championship chase in earnest continues. And Alex Palou, I'll tell you, sometimes you got to be both lucky and good. And I don't think that there was ever a better example of that than the Lady Luck that smiled upon Alex Palou late in that race at Nashville.
Well, I think not only Palou, but that Ganassi team, they have to go thank a few drivers for making a few mistakes late in that race, causing some yellow flags, Mark, because without those yellow flags, there was no way that he was going to make it on fuel. And so that means an extra pit stop. That means that he would have filed back to 22nd position. It would have cut the points lead down to in the 60s, like 60 points. So much more manageable to be caught, per se, in the championship. But what happens? Yellows come out, then yellows breed yellows. He finds enough fuel to finish in third place, actually extending that points lead a little bit.
I think after that first caution, and of course, you know, we can find out to make sure, but I think after the first caution, I think that put him in a position to where he was not going to stop. He was just going to go into pure fuel save mode, because by staying out, and he could have probably, with the way the field was so segmented at that time, he could have dropped back to 11th or 12th in fuel save mode and finished that race and minimized the damage rather than coming to pit road and being shuffled to the back.
And that's what he had to do. I think he is on fuel save. Well, he was on fuel save mode that entire stint, and he was really and wasn't going to make it. But as we said, with the yellows and you're right. After that first one, it still was going to be tight. I didn't, we had it right down to the very end. It's like if it's going to be that lap or the lap before he's going to run out. But then when the second one came, now they did throw a red. He didn't want to see that, but it was enough fuel to where he could be competitive and still hold that third position.
I mean, I say plenty of nice things about you when you're not around, rarely to you, but this is one of those situations where I'm going to I tell you, you did a masterful job of staying on all that pit strategy.
Well, thanks.
That was fun to watch and fun to be a part of, for sure.
A lot of pencil and paper, I'll assure you on that one, and trying to keep up, but that's what makes it fun for all of us, is trying to, and that strategy, it's part of our game, Mark. I mean, it's not always the fastest car that wins these races. You got to have a smart strategist. You have to, your DAG, your engineers, and that driver have to do a masterful job of saving fuel at times, and that's what was happening in Nashville.
And that's why I think it's important for those that are the oval purists, and there are many out there, quite frankly. You and I are oval fans, so let's make no mistake about it. However, because of the scenario that unfolded in that race at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, it's that sort of those sorts of storylines that have made me fans of that former race.
Yeah, no question about it. And I have to say, as you said, we're definitely oval guys, love them, and I love to be able to see the competitiveness and the passing zones everywhere on the racetrack. But that had very few passing zones. But what was exciting about it was the weekend in general. They had concerts. A lot of people were there. They flooded the streets. It was raining a lot of the times, as you know, Mark, and not that pleasant to be there at times. Hot and muggy and rainy. But people came, they loved it, and it was that party atmosphere. Wait till next year, right? It's going to be downtown.
Yeah, that's right.
Going down Broadway, so it's going to be really interesting. And those street events definitely hold a place in our series. And one great thing about having street events that I like is I continue to say I feel our drivers are the best in the world means they have to compete on street courses. They have to compete on natural terrain road courses, plus short ovals like Iowa, and then the super speedways like here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So, 4 different, completely different disciplines, and to win this championship, you have to be good on all of them.
90-minute session is what we have, and as is often the case, Davey, the first 30 minutes or so, usually those rookies that get an extra set of tires go out and turn laps, but a lot of the veterans, quite frankly, sometimes wait till that 1 hour or 50 minutes remaining in the session to go out and turn laps.
Matter of fact, Plo, Mark's sitting right in front of us. We've seen him go out, make his install lap, comes in, hops out of the car, and he's just on the booth. They don't really have enough tires for what they allot them in tires. They'd burn up too fast, so they want to wait till later in the session to where the track is as good as it's going to be before they go out. 5
sets of primary, in fact, 4 sets of alternates to be used during the event weekend. And again, those with rookie drivers do get an extra set. A picture perfect conditions to start this day. Let's get more on the specifics by heading to pit road and welcoming in our Ryan Marine.
Hey, good morning, Mark. Good morning, Davey. 73 degrees. It is a wonderful day to be out here patrolling the pit lane. At least a wonderful morning. We do expect it to warm up over the course of the day today, but no rain in the forecast, at least for today, this Friday. And we do expect mostly clear skies, sunny skies right now over the famed Brickyard here at 16th and Georgetown. It is such an important practice session, though, here this weekend. One fewer practice session than you would normally see over the course of an IndyCar weekend because, of course, we have been here on this road course already this year in the build-up to the Indianapolis 500 back in May. And you know what? As I'm making this update, I see Santino Ferrucci has made his way over here. I thought maybe we'd be able to get a word with him. He's actually going to go back and continue to debrief. But to your point, many drivers out of the cars right now after one quick install lap. Now they're speaking to their engineers, giving some initial feedback. And I do think we'll start to see some of the rookies make their way out on track here soon, but also maybe a little more activity in this initial practice session than we've seen in some of the other events, just because practice time is at a premium here this weekend.
And the next practice begins at 11 o'clock Eastern time, and then at 12:30 we'll go qualifying, the knockout qualifying format, the Firestone Fast 6. And then Indy Next qualifying comes your way at 2:30 Eastern this afternoon. The final warm-up session for the NTT IndyCar Series will be this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And then at 4:45, flag-to-flag coverage of the Indy Next race. So, Davey, you've got sick days. I mean, they never thank you for holding on to them. So, why not burn one today and head on out to the World Series?
That's right. Absolutely. I mean, what an action-packed day. A lot of race cars, and as I said, it's one class right after another. So they're going to keep this track busy today. A lot of laps going to be turned, and that's right. What a perfect day to come out, enjoy it with us here right at the famed Brickyard.
So, again, this track a little under 2.5 miles in length, a 14-turn road course, and for all of the talks of bumpiness and trouble, and no such trouble this weekend. We'll talk more about specifics with the course. Let's head back to pit road, check in with Ryan Marine.
Well, we talk about this being a crossover weekend, and there are a lot of interested spectators here on the pit lane from the NASCAR side. Ryan Preece, who's driving a United Rentals sponsored car this weekend on the NASCAR side. He's checking in here on the United Rentals pit box for Graham Rahal. Big smile on your face after Graham just did a burnout leaving the pit lane. What are your first impressions, Ryan?
I wish that I could do that, leaving my pit box, but I might get yelled at. It's really interesting and really cool. Obviously, the crossover with Graham and myself with United Rentals, and just being able to have the opportunity to come down and kind of see how their practice runs. And I haven't done much road racing, so I've just been kind of hanging around Graham here for a little while. But our 41 Ford Mustang is actually sponsored by Purdue University.
Apologies, but you're wearing the United Rentals shirt right now.
Yep, but this is awesome. I really enjoy the atmosphere of IndyCar. It's pretty cool.
Have you been out to an IndyCar race before? Have you been able to hang out here in previous crossover weekends?
So unfortunately I haven't, just because I walked down pit road, but now I can listen to one of their headsets and be here. So it's definitely standing here a little bit before, and the amount of passion that I already see within this pit area, it's really really awesome.
Have a chance to take a look inside the race car yet?
Yeah, Graham was showing me his steering wheel and all the buttons that he, they can control the weight jacking and heights and all these different little buttons that I'm pretty sure that my crew chief on the NASCAR side is happy that I can't touch.
We know that Kyle Larson's going to be dipping his toes here in the IndyCar waters, running the Indy 500 next year and the following year. Is that of any interest to you if the opportunity ever presented itself?
Anything with tires and an engine always interests me. So, yeah, that would be awesome.
What are you going to be watching for here in this practice?
I just want to see how they all run their practices and kind of, I don't know, just take it all in. Nothing really specific, but definitely, being here at Indy, I've been coming here since I was a little kid with my father, and we race with the quarter midgets. They have a race here in the parking lot. So anytime that I'm able to drive through that tunnel and get by all those security guards and not have anybody chasing me, it's
you and me both.
Yeah,
exactly. I can relate to that. Last couple of things for you. Thoughts about this event, perhaps moving back to the Oval in the future. Is that something you would embrace?
Yeah, so me personally, I'm big. I love the Oval. I love the tradition of it. So yeah, I'm really excited and eager to be getting back to the Oval stuff, just because I'm an oval track guy, right? NASCAR, and but obviously I enjoy the being a road racing and the challenge of that.
Finally, tell us about the partnership with Purdue this weekend.
Yeah, man, that came about really, really quick, and they have a motorsports program at Purdue, and really just it creates a great opportunity for kids to learn about vehicle dynamics and the racing, the motorsports side of it all, and what it takes, and creates opportunity for them to get in the sport.
Great to meet you, Ryan. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Thanks so much for the time.
Yeah, thank you.
That's Ryan Preece.
I remember. Davey, a few years ago, I remember when they did the Roval test with Joseph Newgarden down at Charlotte.
Oh, yeah.
And Nick Yeoman and I were down there with PRN, and I mean, almost the entire garage area went out to the pit wall to watch that run. I mean, you guys, like he said, Ryan Preece said it best. Got wheels and a motor.
Yeah,
it's of interest.
That's a true race driver right there, to be able to get at anything at any time, dirt, pavement, oval, road course, whatever, just be a racing driver. And I'm sure I would like to have been there and watch Joseph go around the Roval, because I know it was fast compared to the stock car. It doesn't matter the speed of any of these cars. You have to be, there's great drivers on both sides, no question about it. We've seen Kurt Busch come over here and do an outstanding job, really, in the IndyCar over here. We've had a lot of our guys go that direction, including Tony Stewart, Cup champion. So it's going to be exciting to see Kyle Larson. I think it's going to, he's a guy that I really feel that can get in any car at any time and win. So they wouldn't be surprised me if there's a rookie winner next year in the Indy 500 with Kyle, the talent that he has.
So Linus Lundqvist to the car this weekend for Simon Pagenaud, and a promising weekend would arrive for him at Nashville for sure. But I think he showed enough of what he's capable of throughout the course of that weekend for Meyer Shank Racing to give him the nod this weekend.
Yeah, what a learning curve that he had. I mean, obviously not being in IndyCar, that facility ever, really being on that track other than Indy Next, getting that opportunity and performing as well as he did. Now, he did make a small mistake, but you know what? You learn from that. He made a small mistake, got into the wall in turn 11, right at the end of the race, causing that yellow. It helped Palou. Palou probably going to give him a little bonus for doing that. But you got to remember that he was competitive the entire race and doing a really good job. And so I think that Meyer Shank team, they seen the talent in the kid. They seen that they're on the fringe of the top 22 for the leader circle money, and they probably feel like this is a kid that could get them over that hump and maybe solidly into that, to where that helps their budget for next year, no question about it.
Yeah, fortunate thing for him was, as we pointed out during the show, it was referenced that, as you said, and Ryan suggested that too, that they're in contention. I guess the advantage to them was they minimized the damage, because those they're in contention with for that final spot had issues that led them to finish behind them. So, but it's still... the championship chase not real tight, but that chase is
tight.
That
chase is tight.
And that's extremely
There's
important.
5 cars. I think 2 Foyt cars, a Meyer Shank car, a Carpenter car. I mean, there's a lot of teams. I think Unko's car, a lot of them fighting it out for that last slot for that leader circle money, which is north of $1 million to help these teams out for budgets for the following year. So it's a huge difference. It makes a big deal. So right now, there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, number one, just to, as a rookie, wanting to show everybody that he can get the job done in the IndyCar series. He wants a full-time ride. Then a little more pressure knowing the team that he's with needs to be in that leader circle, and so he needs to perform well. and try to get them solidly into that for the next year's budgets.
And again, this is scheduled from 9 to 10:30, but we firmly expect within the next 20 minutes or so, the last hour of the session is when it typically turns into an all skate. A couple of cars taking advantage of it, those rookies that get that extra set of tires, among them Linus Lundqvist. So before our conversation with Ryan Preece, we talked about the bumpiness and how rough Nashville was. No such problems here at the Indianapolis
No
Motor
problems
Speedway.
there. And I credit, after getting on that Nashville track and knowing how bumpy it was last year, some places almost undrivable. They really did a good job of fixing a lot of the bumps, repaving certain areas on that racetrack. But you can't help, there's still a massive amount of bumps, especially going over that bridge with all the expansion joints that you have to have in a bridge that traffic goes over every day. But I think they did a really good job. Now, one thing that I have to say, I don't know if Turn 9 is better or worse. Much tighter, and we didn't see too many passing opportunities in Turn 9 like we have seen in the past. They tightened it up so much you really couldn't get a run on somebody. No incidents there this year because it was so slow through there, but I don't know if that's good or bad for the fans.
So, again, we're watching a Benjamin Peterson turn lap. Stingray Robb is out there along with Linus Lundqvist. Important portions of this course, Davey, a couple of bad, fast portions of it. Of course, that Holman Boulevard back straight, and then, of course, the main straightaway in which we go north. But I've always thought, and we mentioned this in early May when we're on the road course here to kick off the month, probably one of my favorite portions of this racetrack is off of turn number 4 and the switchback from 5 to 6 onto Holman Boulevard. That's where you want to be. By the time you get to the apex of 5, you want to be full throttle.
You want to be full throttle through there, and we've seen many incidents where cars trying to go through there too wide, can't make it. There's some curbing there, and we've seen cars get completely airborne over those curbs, and so you want to be careful there. Matter of fact, I think Ed Carpenter's car, one of them broke a tub going over it. I think it was VK. So, yeah, you're right. You have to get these there wide open. It's not easy to do. It does look easy when they're all doing it, but it's not, especially as the tires wear down. But the second best passing zone is going down into that turn 7 and then to Holman Boulevard. We'll see a lot of action down there. That's, a big braking zone. And then, again, there's, 3 really good passing zones. Obviously, turn 1, turn 7. And when you get over into turn 12, coming back off that our short chute, basically, in turn 1 and 2, when it comes to oval, there is some passing in that zone down there as well. So smooth track, long track, plenty of passing zones, and you can be pretty darn aggressive around this entire course. Really fast, by the way, too.
We talked about how abrupt the entrance was to the pits at Nashville. It's decidedly less abrupt here. You've got plenty of time to make up your mind, but I will say this. If you're forced to pit under green, you better make sure that you time it right because it is a long off. It is a long off of the track to get onto pit road. I mean, you're on pit road for quite a while.
Long pit road. You got to remember this pit lane is equipped to run 33 cars, for example, or even more than that. When NASCAR's here, they'll have 40 cars or whatever they run. So, so it's a long pit lane. And Mark, you have to remember going pit out. Get down into turn 1, right. It gets pretty tight down there because you kind of merge in on the outside of turn 2, and if there's cars on track, kind of leaves you out no man's land. A lot of marbles could be built up there, and the last thing you want when you get new tires after a pit stop is to be out those marbles, get debris on your tires because it takes a good lap to get those cleaned off.
Is curbing part of the racing groove here by and large?
Yeah, well, it definitely is in some areas. So, matter of fact, when you go through the S, is basically down off as 8, 9, 10. You used up the curbs. As a matter of fact, the curbs are really wide. There's some of them up to 4 or 5 foot before you get to the grass. And you'll watch these cars, they'll be almost to the grass. They almost get if it's a right-hander, their left side tires are almost on the curbing. So they use a lot of curbing here in that area. You don't use a lot. You don't use any in turn 1. You don't use any in turn 7. A little bit too abrupt, but 8, 9, 10, you're going to use them up.
A number of years ago now, so many I can't remember, in fact, I used to do hospitality tours for Mary Mendez, and I was doing a tour for ABC Supply, and got to know a respected motorsports journalist and a former attorney named Louis Frank. And little did I know that it would result in a friendship that, quite frankly, I was reluctant to pursue in the beginning. But I'm now glad that I did. And then, so anyway, the longtime Reuters and all forms of motorsports contributor to many forums, and a frequent visitor to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and a treasured friend for sure. Lewis, welcome back to the world's greatest race course. Good morning.
Thank you. I'm feeling like Rodney Dangerfield right now. No respect, but it's wonderful. This, when this used to be a month long for the Indy 500, I probably was here 20 years before they changed it. So 20 months. I mean, I've spent quite a bit of my lifetime.
Well, your thoughts. We heard from Ryan Preece earlier,
Yeah.
and I think everyone is certainly in agreement that what a showcase of all the forms of motorsports that we have on display. And quite frankly, I think there's no more appropriate place to do it than this.
Oh, absolutely. It's wonderful. I'm a little sad. I hear things may change next year, but NASCAR fans get to see IndyCars. IndyCar fans get to see NASCAR. It's all racing, like you were saying, Davey. I started as a race fan, okay? I admit it, okay? I managed to convince people I could take pictures and write. I fooled them. And I talk a lot because I'm a lawyer. But, I mean, this to me, to see the groups and the interests. Today, Shane Van Gisbergen is going to be hanging out either with Scott Dixon or the other Scott, McLaughlin. Yeah. So racers love racing. And I think if you're listening to this show and you're not familiar with NASCAR, give it a try, and you'll recognize some of the voices on that show.
Well, Davey, and you can speak to the fact that not only is there a lot going on here, but there's a lot going on at other racing venues throughout Central Indiana this week.
Yeah, well, there is. There's plenty of racing going on all over. Matter of fact, Raceway Park, you got the Craftsman Truck Series out there. Great venue to go to as well to watch. I think ARCA's out there as well with the trucks. So there's this weekend, for whatever reason, brings a lot of racing. Matter of fact, Knoxville Nationals is going on. I know it's not here, but that's what a huge sprint car race going on, and it's going to be exciting. I think Kyle Larson and Rico Abreu are going to start from the front row for the big one. So it's going to be an exciting weekend
Did you see the paint scheme on Daniel Dye's Craftsman truck that's running this weekend at Raceway Park?
I have not.
Well, here's a picture of it. Kyle Moyer sent that to me yesterday. He is running the same paint scheme that Gary Bentonhausen ran on his 1983 sprint car.
Yeah, that's the Del Rose car. Oh, yep. So that's outstanding. Yep. Timmy Del Rose.
That old Terre Haute first sponsorship on that car.
Yeah, Timmy owned that car for years, and he'll be happy to see that. That's a great. Obviously, Gary, as you know Gary well, we all did, and miss him, but that's pretty cool to do it for Gary Bettenhausen. He's an icon around Raceway Park, that's for sure.
Yeah, his sons will be there, and we understand there's quite a contingent coming down from Tinley Park to take that event
right
too.
On.
So that'll be cool. So Lewis, we've had a few years now under the stewardship of Roger Penske and Penske Entertainment, and I would say the place looks like that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. This May was, it was better than 2019. There were so many people. Again, one of the reasons racers come here and veterans is to see other people, and I saw pictures of drivers I hadn't seen. It was just such a crowd. They've spent the money. They have small innovations in terms of scheduling, other uses for the track. I saw the building out by Gate 9A for where they hold the sprint cars out there, or the midgets out there. Yeah. I mean, you have to spend. You have to spend. This is legend. This is an icon of America. But I know they've had do-overs, but it was a long time since 2000. In 1999 when they did it over for 2000. So it was time to spruce it up.
And again, early on, just a handful of drivers taking advantage, those with the extra set of tires, primarily the rookies, a handful of others have taken install laps. In about 10 to 15 minutes or so, we expect things to get decidedly busier here. And while Lewis, certainly, they want to make sure that every amenity is provided for the teams and the drivers in terms of the facility, the scheduling, and things of that nature. I think he holds near and dear and requires everyone in his organization to hold near and dear to what brought him here and what made him fall in love with the place. He came here as a fan first, and he wants everyone to walk away from this place feeling the way he felt the first time that he came here.
Yeah,
I'm talking about Roger Penske.
No doubt. He's not an emotional man to most of us. But when he talks about when his dad brought him here, there's a gleam in his eye. And the guy's, 87? and still running things. And this is just part of his business, but this is what gets him in the heart. And he if anyone was going to be a steward of this track from the Holman Georges, Roger was the only guy, because he got it. He feels it. And as I said, when I'm here in May and now, I feel it too. Even, you won't hold it against me. I'm originally from New York City.
I guess, we, because of all of the years that you followed Formula One and continue to, what do you make of the sudden fact that suddenly that North America, most specifically the United States, is firmly in the crosshairs of Formula One in terms of expanding their fan base? Yeah,
so it's a all right, I won't go back. I'm too long-winded on this. But so when Liberty bought Formula One from Bernie Ecclestone, they wanted to make it work in America. It didn't work because they don't have an American driver who is winning. Okay, Mario Andretti did win a championship, but it didn't move the needle too much. But the Liberty has realized that kind of like how Long Beach, which started as a Formula One, you have a party and there's a race. Most people don't even know what's going on. They just go. But Liberty is spending the money. I heard there's a $400 million investment in Las Vegas from the sports business. $400 million. That's real money.
Well, I know there was a new hospitality area put inside of Turn 4 in Iowa. Yeah. And Bud Dinker said that when that was dismantled, it was going to be sent to Las Vegas, and one like that was going to be a mile long.
Yeah,
it would have wrapped around the entire racetrack.
A mile long.
Yeah. So there was a kind of joke in Formula One years ago. They managed to outspend unlimited budgets.
Yeah.
And don't just say 3 races in the U.S. They have 5 races now in North America when you include Canada and Mexico. And so Drive to Survive on Netflix, which is, quote, reality TV, unquote. It's not quite the same thing as real life, but that has engaged new viewers, and I think they come to see that, and they're spending the money, and again, like you said, Roger, his company bought the Speedway and the broadcasting. You have to spend money constantly. It's just like the Smith family fixing up their tracks, doing the Roval.
8 cars now have taken to the course. We see Marcus Armstrong starting to turn laps now here this weekend in that 11 car. We'll see Takuma Sato in a couple of weeks at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Well, be that as it may, we do know this, that regardless of what form this weekend may take moving forward, as you touched upon in May, Davey and I have discussed this and others, at no time, in my opinion, has the month of May in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Indy 500 been healthier than it was this past May. And I really think that, again, whether this event stays in its current form or there's some shuffling, some movement, whatever, I think everyone is in agreement that in one form or another, NASCAR is certainly here to stay, and I think everyone's in agreement and happy that should happen.
Yeah, again, like drivers, I go back to this. If you're a race fan, you should like all races. You can like one more than another. But the different skills it takes to drive a 1,700-pound Indy car versus, almost 2 tons in a NASCAR car, the drivers, you appreciate it, Davey. You know the nuance, even if you didn't do it full-time at the cup level or something. And I love, I got a bug in my head years ago, smelled the castor oil. And here I am decades later,
Yeah, one thing, too, I was fortunate to drive some Fender cars back in the day.
Yeah.
And I remember my first time was at Bakersfield Speedway, half-mile Speedway out in California. And I ran midgets and sprint cars and super modifieds there. And I had my lifting points where I needed to lift. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get this late model. It was a Southwest Tour car, NASCAR Southwest Tour. And what I found was where I lifted in all the open wheel cars was still way too deep for the heavy the late model stock car, and so it taught me right then that it's a different driving style completely because of the weight of the car, down on power compared to open wheel. But there were absolutely fantastic drivers in the cars then to now. It wasn't like we felt like, hey, we're fast, we're going to get those cars to go in. No, that's not the case. It's a completely different style. And I think some drivers have a little bit of a problem figuring out you use too much brake, which I did at first, burnt the brakes off because I'm driving it in too deep. And and have them all come to the same facility like Indianapolis with the two top-tier motorsports in the country with NASCAR and IndyCar, and having the drivers be able to cross over and just see, those Jimmy Johnson, we'll use him for an example. I think so long that he was really in that heavy car for so long, and you have your braking points and you know what the capabilities of your car are. When you get to a lightweight Indy car, he just couldn't get overcome, where his natural style was to brake early, because that's what you do in Cup and let a lot of roll. Well, here you use drive in deep as you can, a lot of brakes. So two different styles. It's great to see it both the same facility, but the best thing is seeing all the drivers meshing and having a good time.
Decades ago, what I missed was the era of A.J. Foyt and Mario.
Yeah.
They could drive anything.
Yeah.
I mean, different cars, entirely different, and of the time, yet they were both brutal cars.
Yeah, that's right.
And there were special people. So, as you said, Tony Stewart, the late John Andretti, Kyle Larson will be one of those who can make that kind of transition to a different series.
I maintain there's still a fairly strong desire to do that, but in those days, AJ was in charge of what AJ did. Mario was in charge of what Mario did.
Yeah.
Those guys don't have that luxury. They're beholden to so many others, including sponsors and manufacturers, that make it more difficult for them to hop around.
But it was amazing.
Well,
it was amazing to see them.
Well, years and years ago, as Donald Davidson tells us, you could go across the street the night before the 500 and watch guys race the next day in the 500.
But again, different times. But
yeah,
a little fact that Donald knows that Mario Andretti won the Daytona 500 before he won the Indy 500. I mean, that's how people. I would like to see crossover, but as you said, Mark, they're not free to make a decision where they race.
Well, we know that you have to get reacquainted with all your brethren here in the media center that you look forward to seeing a couple of times a year. But again, always a pleasure to have you. We look forward to your visits and value your friendship for sure. And enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.
All right, Louis Frank joining us. So, Davey, business picking up a little bit. 14 cars are now turning laps, and you've been watching, most notably, David Malukas, and you've also been watching Linus Lundqvist turn.
Yeah, so Lundqvist is actually doing a really good job, Lundgaard. I've been watching him a lot. He's P1 right now, which is no surprise. He's been on the pole here. He's fast here in that Rahal, and remember they kind of broke out at this race earlier this year, got him win much needed. But Armstrong, another one, that rookie doing a good job. I couldn't figure his car out. It's not green, it's red and white. I go, who's in the red white car? But he has a different sponsor on the car. That is Armstrong. That rookie, he's fastest right now. Rosenquist, no surprise, always good around here as well. But they're just slowly getting up to speed. Rosenquist, you're right. I've seen, it's been a while since he's been on this road course. He's missing his line here and there, but he's going to get that fixed. Just takes laps for anybody to kind of remember where you need to be, and especially in the IndyCar. Sits P9 right now, so good start for him.
I've watched Scott McLaughlin move his way through the south end, and there was one thing for sure. These drivers figure out quickly, as we talked about, what curbing is an acceptable part of the racing groove and what part they need to stay off of.
Yeah, that's right. And that's something that, I play around with a lot when I go out there with a two-seater, give rides, just how much that curbing affects the car or how much straighter you can make that corner. And it's a little hard on the car, some of this curbing, but if you can straighten that corner out and you can get more speed, mile per hour through that corner, it benefits you. So right there we see a lot in turn 2. In turn 3, he rolls over on it, but turn 4, you don't touch it. Turn 5, you use it all up, but boy, going down this back straightaway, you don't really want to touch too much get down into turn 7.
Although it's not, it does seem as though at times that the straightaway that they employ here going north seems almost longer than it does when you're running the oval.
Yeah, well, because it goes so much slow. You don't have that moment. You're not going down at 230 miles an hour, so you're exactly right. We watch the cars going the opposite direction. We just the speed's definitely down because you're coming onto the racetrack, not through the corner, onto the straightaway. Oh, we see some tire smoke down in turn 11 by one of the cars who runs off. Looks like that maybe Grosjean potentially, but yeah, you're right, Mark. It definitely looks slower. But by the time you get to turn 1, you realize you have plenty of speed.
How difficult is the transition on and off the banking when they use the south short sheet?
It's not bad. At times when you're going through there, especially heading into that turn when you're heading into turn 12 from turn 11, you think, oh man, you're really going faster there. And that bump on the transition, you definitely feel it, but it doesn't upset the car. Almost loads it. Almost, it doesn't feel too bad. And we see all that tire smoke again, showing a little bit of replay. And that is, that was actually Peterson in the A.J. Foyt car that got all that tire smoke going on. And then coming back onto it down the front straightaway, it's there, but it doesn't really affect it too much.
5 sets of primary Firestone Firehawks, 4 sets of alternates to be used this weekend. To get more on the specifics of the compounds, we head back to pit road, check in with Ryan Marine.
And our friend Kara Kristalik, not here this weekend, but filling in admirably, is Corey Williams from Firestone. We talked about the number of sets of tires available to the teams, but I'm curious about the changes because the compounds are not entirely the same that we saw when we were here in May, correct?
That's correct. So the constructions are still the same tire that we brought earlier for the Indy GP, but we actually altered the alternate compounds slightly based on results of what we saw in that first race and anticipating warmer track temperatures and warmer ambient temperatures as well.
How will the difference manifest itself for these teams?
So the teams will see a slight difference compared to the earlier Indy GP race. So a little bit of a sacrifice in grip. So the grip will go down a little bit for these alternates, but a little bit better wear for this event.
You mentioned the difference in temperature. It should be a little warmer than we saw in May. How does that affect Firestone? What do the teams need to do to compensate for the changing conditions?
So that's where we kind of balanced what we saw in the results from the first Indy GP. So we saw the track and ambient temperature a little bit higher than we kind of see normally in May. But knowing coming back in August, you always have the potential to be even warmer. So that's where we, with our design engineers, our chemical engineers, and our compounders, very short turnaround time, but we were able to get a compound that we can kind of balance the wear and the grip a little bit for these anticipated higher temperatures.
Always good to be back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, right?
Absolutely.
Corey, thank you very much for the time. We appreciate it. And guys, I took a trip to the museum just a couple of days ago with my young sons, and they pointed out that on the Marmon Wasps, yes, there are Firestone tires on the first ever Indy 500 winner there in the museum. Even the 9 and the 11-year-old can pick that out. So Firestone with a rich history here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
And you need to get in to take a look at those exhibits while you can, Davey, because they'll close up shop in early November. A planned $89 million renovation at the museum. And we will have folks here a little bit later on today to discuss the specifics.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I've seen the renderings, what they're doing there, and I think it's long time needed with the history of this track and the cars. And, one thing with IndyCar, if you take the Mormon Wasp, as Ryan just mentioned, the first car to win this great race, the Indy 500, and then you go back to Joseph Newgarden's car of today, and you set those cars side by side, and you look at all the cars in between, the changes of an IndyCar from the first running to now, just amazing, all through the Roadster era, the first rear engines come into place and ground effects and so many things, to where you go to a stock car museum, they're still just stock cars, really, so our cars have changed more over the years than you can really imagine. With the tires, just so many things.
I go back to what Davey Hamilton drove in 96, 97, 98, and see how much they've changed.
Yeah, and I look how far forward we set those cars. But then again, I was with Mario out in Nashville doing a little event, and they had his 1985 car there. And Mark, you set so far forward with the cars, your feet were actually in front of the tires.
Yeah.
So when you had contact with the wall, very, very dangerous. And that's another thing I was getting ready to say is about, drivers of the past, comparing them to today, like A.J. Foyt, Mario Andretti, just Tony, and the Larsons and drivers like that. Is that safety? Mario and AJ, they came through an era where there was no safety. I mean, these helmets were basically
100 gallons of fuel.
With no fuel bladders.
Right.
By the way, just tanks. And then you watch AJ in Riverside in the NASCAR race there, to where the brakes went out, and he had a low back bucket seat. With seatbelt. And he flipped that thing, and went to the hospital, hurt him pretty good, and when he got in his accident in Road America, the IndyCar, that was one of the cars you set really way forward in, and your feet were the first thing to hit. So when you hit that embankment, I had massive leg injuries, and just a head surround, head protection. Your shoulders basically stuck out of the top of some of those cars. So for those drivers to come through and really just, in one piece, so to speak, I know they've Mario really was fortunate with injuries, but AJ, he had a lot of drivers just coming out there with their life was pretty amazing.
40 minutes into the session now, business picking up. We've had 25 takers, Davey, and numbers starting to go up for the rookies. Lundqvist, Peterson, some of those guys at double digits now, and Alex Palou, early on, your points leader, has turned the fast time here at a minute 10.300.
Well, he can't. He's not going to lock the championship up here, Mark. But we only have 4 races left here. Tomorrow. Then we have St. Louis, Portland, Oregon, and then Laguna Seca out in California. So he's really getting a stranglehold on this championship, and a good race here, a win here potentially. It could really lock that championship up, which we don't want to see, but I mean, that's how far ahead he is right now. So him being on top right now, no surprise. Good run by Rossi so far. P2 in that Aero McLaren car. And then again, Lundgaard, we know how fast he is here. How about Kirkwood, winner of the 2 street races this year, Long Beach and last week in Nashville, P3. Colton Herta, we talked about him several times. We know how much speed the kid's got and how good and talented he is, but it just seems a lot of problems. For example, we talked Road America where they pitted him 1 lap too early and he ran out of fuel. Then the very next race he sped in mid-Ohio on his own and had to do a drive-through. Last week he had a fast car in Nashville, but just went a little bit too hard and blistered the right front alternate tire where he had to pit, just completely took him out of strategy and put him towards the back of the field. So just, he's going to get in victory lane, and we know how good, how good he is with that team and how well they mesh, and his teammate Kirkwood winning 2 races this year. But right now, Colton, he's fighting to get a win before the season.
Back to Alex Palou, and while certainly he already has a championship under his belt, came very, very close to winning an Indy 500 a couple of years ago. I think he's probably, certainly he's put himself in a position to where the championship is his to lose, quite frankly. But I think in order to, be able to look at himself as a complete racer, he reminds me a little bit of where Will Power was now a few years ago, in the fact that he had road and street courses down pat, and people were wondering, but why can't he win on an oval?
Yeah.
And so I would think that while he's certainly focused on the task at hand here, my guess would be that he would have Worldwide Technology Raceway circled on his calendar and would dearly love to get to victory lane finally on an oval.
Yeah, and then you got to go up against the guy that's won all the ovals this year. That's on a roll, and that's Joseph Newgarden. So, timing may not be the best for him to get that win, but he can get the job done. He knows he can. The team can. I think everybody's shooting's going, hey, we can't let Joseph sweep the ovals in 1 year. But boy, he's really, really strong in the ovals right now. Talking about Newgarden. And second in points, if I recall right now. Yeah, second in points. And I think, 75 back, if I'm not mistaken.
84. He's 84 back.
84 back. So, Palou has a really good opportunity to win another championship.
Yeah, there's no question. And again, we've reached that point of the season where I think, for the most part, Davey, I kind of believe that if not by now, certainly by the time we perhaps get to the final 2 races of the season, the picture may start to, the dominoes, it may start to fall. I'm of the belief that there are many teams and many drivers that have perhaps made those decisions, but contractually they can't announce them until we get
I think so. And I think, I looked at this sheet, and I actually tell people, we start talking about rumors or who's going where, what teams are, what's happening with these teams. So last week I put pencil to paper and I started going down through the teams and driver, and I started putting arrows to where I feel they may go and mark. It's a scribble. It's a big scribble when it's done, because it all really kind of it's all dictated on, I think, where Palou ends up or what he does.
I mean, Penske literally is the only lock at this point.
He is the only
one
lock. That is absolutely correct. He is the only lock, period, right now with his 3 drivers. Every other team, the rumors, and like Del Coyne, I think he has 0 drivers potentially going into next year right now. Where does Uncos Hollinger land? Where does Andretti says, hey, we're making changes. We're not taking people's money more. We're hiring drivers that we want to hire. So what does that mean? Who are they looking at? That mean Grosjean gone? Does that mean DeFrancesco's gone? I don't know. I mean, there's just so many things it's going to be exciting, but I think everything is kind of the pendulum off of Palou.
46 minutes remaining in this session. Speaking of Palou, he continues P1 at a minute 10.3003. Rossi is second quick, then Lundgaard, Kirkwood, Herta the top 5. Dixon, Armstrong, Rahal, Malukas, Rosenquist through 10th. DeFrancesco, Castroneves, Erickson, Power, Regis VK. Then Grosjean, Harvey, Newgarden, McLaughlin, and Ferrucci, the top 20. With, again, 45 minutes remaining in this practice session. Back to pit road and Ryan Marine.
We're talking about silly season and when we're going to get some of the first announcements. And I would have circled here just in a couple of hours the announcement that's scheduled for Meyer-Shank Racing. I think we're going to have some idea about what their lineup for next year is going to be. And I'll give you a hint because I think he's standing on the pit box right now of the number 60 car. And that would be Tom Blomqvist, who made his IndyCar debut earlier this year on the streets of Toronto. He's here this year with the team. Of course, he drives for them full-time in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, won the 24 Hours of Daytona earlier this year for Meyer-Shank Racing, and has been linked to an IndyCar seat with the team for a number of years now. And Tom's up there on the headset. He's listening in as Linus Lundqvist pounds around the racetrack here this weekend. I asked the team if I could talk to Tom here in this practice, and they said, how about in the next practice, which happens to be after the scheduled press conference later today. So I think there's a very good chance that Tom Blomqvist will be announced as a 2024 IndyCar driver before practice 2 later today.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note, Davey, now that some of these drivers or some of these teams are going outside of the traditional road, if you will, to the NTT IndyCar Series. It's because of decisions like that, not being critical of them, just pointing it out. It's because of decisions like that it makes the road for a guy like Linus Lundqvist a little tougher in terms of getting into the NTT IndyCar.
Well, you know, that press conference could be, you know, obviously Lucas is here, so that means, you know, I think Ryan, he has, you know, he's cited something out, and he's going to follow that, and I think he's accurate. Something's going to happen there, but I'm not so sure that Lundqvist isn't on their radar as well right now because of...
that may be an announcement concerning 2 drivers moving forward.
Because, you know, with Simon, you know, with his injuries, matter of fact, I tried to call Simon last week, just want to talk to him, not about anything other than hopefully his health is getting better. He's a good friend and miss him at the racetrack and, want the very best for him. But is Elio and Simon go sports car racing and bring these two guys to IndyCar? I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. You just never know.
Well, the reality of it is, and this is no knock against an Indy 500 championship team, for whatever the reason, this pairing just has not worked.
It really has.
The results haven't been there.
Yeah, Elio comes out right off, wins the 500, but they are with Andretti Technologies, and we got one off course right now. Looks like that's Pato Award, and slid off, red flag. It looks like down there, coming onto the racetrack, down there in turn 14 area. We'll have to get a little look at the replay, but it just, Elio and Pageau, they didn't forget how to drive a race car, but the Andretti Technologies, I don't think, was giving them exactly what they needed, and with both of them being the same speed, just circumstances didn't work out, as you said. Yeah, we see.
Just stepped out on him.
Yeah, he went off course. He actually came through. That's turn number 12.
Yeah, right side got off.
Right side got off just a little bit. Got in that grass. It slid across the track. Didn't hurt anything. Just slid. Couldn't keep the car running, and it got it stopped on the grass. And they'll go get him fired up, get him going.
Well, one thing's for sure: the runoff areas here, that they all know where they are. This is a very forgiving racetrack.
Very forgiving. Yeah, you can hang it out here without too much risk because, most generally you're not going to hit anything. And that was a spot he could have slid, the 100 yards through the grass up onto the oval turn 1 and not hit anything. So you're right. You can definitely hang it out here and without too much risk.
Moving more toward the silly season discussion now while we're red, and they'll retrieve that car. So, obviously you've been close with the Foyt team for years, and a couple of other teams that you have a great relationship with, most notably Ed Carpenter Racing. What's the sense of your relationship and how happy Ed is, or is Ed happy with the relationship and what Ryan Hunter-Ray has brought to that race?
Well, I think Ed's happy. I talked to Tony and Laura George yesterday, and Ed runs that team, and I know that they know that there needs to be some performance there, and they need to get the boat in the right direction. I didn't talk directly about Ryan, but I think the results aren't showing it, but I think he's doing a good job of just kind of, telling where their weak links are and where their strong points are, and don't know where that's going to happen, where that's going to end up, if he's going to stay in that seat or not, but there's a lot of decisions made in that team as well, the Foyt team as well, all kinds of stories are going over there where potentially both drivers are going to be replaced. Same thing with Coyne, with both drivers being replaced, so man, it's pretty wild, silly season, that's for sure.
Ongoing battle for the Manufacturers Championship, Davey, after Chevy flexed plenty of muscle at Iowa. Honda with a nice rebound, and Honda currently goes into this stretch of 4 races left with a lead of 1,108 over 1,016 for Chevrolet.
Well, at one point during the Nashville race, and we're fortunate to be able to look at our timing and scoring, and it keeps our points alive. And at one point, they were only 15-point difference between those two manufacturers going in, because the Chevrolet really, they were all towards the front of that race. Obviously, it changed around and mixed up. So right now, same thing. Honda has a nice little advantage going into these last 4.
And a nice little advantage of this practice session, because Honda has 8 of the top 10.
Wow, how about
far.
that? Yeah, you got Rossi in 2nd, Rosenquist in 10th, and then all the way. Actually, let's put it this way. They got 10 of the top 12, so pretty impressive.
So we do want to make mention of the fact that there are some penalties, grid penalties coming up for engine changes, and we'll address that after we hear from Larry Foyt.
Got a chance to speak to Larry. He's on the headset with Santino Ferrucci, who right now is P21. Benjamin Peterson in the team car, P26. What have you heard so far from Santino here in this practice?
Yeah, just trying to, this hasn't been a great race for us historically, so came with some stuff. We thought we were good actually in the race here earlier in the year, so we kind of started there. And, it seems to be not bad. We're gaining on it, but got to pick up some time for sure.
For a team that's looking to move their development program forward, how helpful is it to have a second bite at the apple at the same track in 1 year?
Yeah, I mean, you just hope you can get it, keep making it better. So we've got some new things on the car for us that we've been working on, and some new theories. But yeah, I mean, it's not like we're out to lunch, but we definitely need to grab a little chunk here to get more competitive.
We're, of course, in the middle of IndyCar silly season. A lot of rumors swirling around. But where does A.J. Foyt Racing stand looking ahead to 2024?
Yeah, working on all that stuff. Having the conversations, the usual stuff. It's that time of year, I guess. But, we're just focusing on really keeping this 14 car in the leader circle right now, working on that. And Benjamin keeps learning. So, everything's okay. Just already looking ahead, but want to finish this year as strong as we can as well.
And finally, looking over your shoulder, I see AJ is here. He's got a smile on his face. He still loves coming out to the racetrack, especially here, right?
Well, he loves coming to Indianapolis, that's for sure. So glad he's here with us, and we'll try to do better for him here.
Thank you, Larry.
Loves going to Charlie Brown's to start every day when he's here.
Yeah. Well, that shop's right next door, so easy for him to go from the shop to Charlie Brown's. And I'm with Larry. It's great. I don't know if you guys been on Flow, but able to see the A.J. Foyt documentary. It's classic A.J. Foyt, and I know that he doesn't do a lot of interviews, and right at the very start of it, he tells you how he doesn't like to do them and trying to get that microphone off him. But being a great friend of AJ's and being able to drive for him as a rookie and him bringing me into the sport, I can't ever thank him enough. And I love being around him. I love he's in the track.
I knew I could get him in a pre-race. I could get him in the post-race if he won. But other than that, Tommy LeMans was the guy I went and talked to.
Yeah, that's right.
If I needed some of his pit report, I went to Tommy LeMans. Or Craig Barnett.
Or Craig. Yeah, Craig's still there. Craig's still part of that team, no question about it. And watching that documentary, and it's A.J. Foyt, but it had some wins with Kenny Brack winning the 500 for him, and then I was with Power Team the year before that. And the only thing I made was when he was ripping the computers out of the timing stand. That was actually my car on track that he was ripping the computers out of the timing stand at this race. So. AJ, what a character. I mean, it talks about from the lion that chased him down, if I remember, it was a lion, and then just all that he's been through, from the bees, the killer bees attacking him, but a lot of on-track great stuff.
Well, IndyCar officials announced today a 6th position starting grid penalty for the 06 of Elio Castroneves, the 18 of David Malukas, and the 30 of Jack Harvey for unapproved engine changes following the race in Nashville.
Interesting. I talked to some of the Honda guys earlier this season and said, hey, later in the year we probably are going to be in a situation where we're going to be penalized some spots for some engine issues earlier in the year. So they kept an eye on that. That's why they wanted to have a big lead going into the year for the manufacturer lead. So. And that tells you why right there. A few problems they had early on, now teams are having to take penalties because of those.
Well, that penalty's gone back and forth over the years, Davey. There was, I think, a conversation held at one point by some of the teams saying, "Hey, wait a minute, that's not necessarily on us. Why are we being punished?"
Wow.
And so then they went a few years and actually took points away from the engine manufacturer that was involved in that change. And now recently they've shifted it back to where it's a grid penalty.
Yeah, and that's tough. I'll be honest with you. I always felt like if it's something that the team did that caused a failure or an engine change, that maybe the team should be penalized. But if the team has nothing to do with it, and it's the manufacturer side of it, I never felt that it should be the team getting penalized or that driver, because they had nothing to do with the issues. So it's a hard one. You got to police it. You got to be the same for everybody. You have to be consistent. But yeah, I always think it's kind of a bummer that the team pays for something they had no control over.
Kyle Kirkwood tested the brakes in the
Yes,
north
he
end
did.
track a little bit.
And then the 12 there, that's an area that we see a lot of brakes. We're going to see it throughout the weekend. The good news is there is plenty of runoff there. Actually, on the old style road course, they go off, get right back on track, so no harm, no foul.
That kid's had a feast or famine year, which is indicative of a youngster early on in his career. He 2 impressive wins this year that places that aren't easy to win: Long Beach and Nashville.
Yeah, well, and how about this? 2 pretty historic events. I mean, Long Beach. I mean, that's as far as historic events compared, it's the second to the Indy 500. And Nashville, being in a party town, a new venue, I think it has the opportunity to have that same,
move to the finale next year.
Moving to the finale, there's part of it right there. It's going to be the finale. The banquet's going to be in Nashville. So 2 pretty cool races for him to win. And I'm sure that he has that guitar. I don't know if he knows how to play it. Maybe him and Colton need to start a band. Colton on the drums and him on the guitar now that he's got one.
Well, when you talk about, some of the upheaval in terms of the driver roster, obviously he and Colton pretty well set. And I think Andretti Autosport's got to feel good about having those 2 pieces to build around.
Oh, boy, they got, 2 young talents with Colton and Kirkwood. And you're right. They're staying in that team. It's really DeFrancesco and Grosjean. Are they staying or are they not staying? Who knows? We'll find out. But as you said, we can confidently say that there's 3 drivers we know exactly where they're going to be, and that's that Penske group with those 3 drivers that he has.
Well, you've got he finished 15th, talking about Kyle Kirkwood, 15th at St. Pete. He finished 27th at Texas. He was 12th at Barber, 14th at the GP here. He finished 28th in the 500, 17th at Mid-Ohio, 15th at Toronto, and 11th at Nashville. Other than that, the 2 wins. He finished 7th in the first race at Iowa, had a couple of top 10s back-to-back at Detroit and Road America. So wow. I think, you look at the average start, the average finish, average start 10th, average finish 12th, but again, aided by those 2 wins. But I think people should be aware of the fact that more consistency, and if so, look out next year for Kyle Kirkwood.
And that's what they definitely need to find is consistency. That's why he finds himself, quite a ways back in the points championship. And wins are everything. You always want wins. Wins are so important to have and to put on your resume. But obviously you want to go for championships and be consistent as well.
And to that end, I mean, Colton Herta, Davey, we have seen it time and time again where issues, not necessarily, some of them have been in his control, but, quite frankly, some of his pit stops haven't been the cleanest this year.
Yeah, no, they've had some struggles. Matter of fact, when you with Colton, he's had 3 different race strategists this year, 3 different ones. So that tells you a lot of, the inconsistency over that camp, trying to figure out what's the right combination for Colton and to make sure the right people are on his stand. We go right into, like I say, the last race at, not the last race, but the race in Road America where they pitted him 1 lap too early and ran him out of fuel where he couldn't, he was dominating that race. And then, he wants to win, so he's going as hard as he could at Mid-Ohio, sped in the pits, locked it up, sped in the pits, and cost him another win there. And it just, it blistered tire at Nashville. So just has to get it going again. Has to get that winning streak happening.
Just a couple of podium finishes. One, in fact, for him, a third-place finish earlier this year. A former member of this radio network and a former participant in this race is our good friend Zach Beach, and Ryan Marine's caught up with him on pit road.
Great to see Zach here on the pit lane, wearing the McLaren colors, as you have been all year, but I'm not sure we've had a chance to catch up with you about this yet. So for folks who don't know, tell us, what is your role with the McLaren team?
Yeah, it's been great to be back at the racetrack. I got a few different hats on at the moment, but throughout the summer, just been doing a lot of sim work with these guys and helping out Chevrolet as well. So it's great to be back at the racetrack. I'm usually here spotting on the road courses, but luckily this weekend I'm just on the stand listening to feedback and just kind of correlating with Felix a little bit of how the weekend's going. So these guys, they've been great to work with. Aero McLaren's been an awesome organization to kind of come back to the sport with, and just so happy to be back at the racetrack.
How did this relationship come about?
Honestly, it just kind of came through mutual friends here at the team. Of course, Billy Vincent, I kind of grew up with him around the karting world and just knew a lot of good people here that slowly there kind of became a position that I could help out with. And once I had the opportunity, I jumped to be back here.
Mark just brought to my attention that you might have posted recently about a new helmet or something like that. What can you tell us?
Oh, it's nothing to do with any of this. It's just luckily Bell, I've had a great relationship with them. So they're helping me out get something sorted. Hopefully we can have something that I'm using it with here this following season. Don't know if that's going to be an IndyCar or sports cars, but we're trying really hard to be back at the racetrack. And in the meantime, being here and just observing it, and I didn't really know how much I was missed until I came back. It took me a little bit to stomach coming back to an IndyCar race, but now that I'm here, I'm sad that I was away for a couple of years.
Zach Beach is our guest. And yeah, take us through being on the sidelines, watching the sport move on from afar, and then what it's like to return.
You know, it's been good to see myself mature away from the track and see the sport mature as it has as well. I mean, I think what we've seen Roger Penske do with IndyCar over the last few years has been incredible, and the sport's just getting more and more momentum behind it each year. And it's as exciting now, if not more, than when I was able to do it 2018 to 2020. And it's just, for me, I'm a racer. It doesn't matter if I'm in the car or if I'm here on the stand listening. I love this sport. I love the people that are part of it. And at the end of the day, this is home for me. I need a little time away just to kind of sort myself, but this is where I want to be. This is where I want to spend my time at.
And take us through what you're doing on the simulator side. For folks who don't know, this is not just jumping on iRacing at home. This is a pretty intensive operation.
Yeah, luckily it's a little more advanced than iRacing. The simulators we have these days, they're full cockpits just like the IndyCar. We're using our actual race seat, the IndyCar wheel and pedals, and just correlating a lot of things, just trying to see if the feedback that I'm finding on the simulator is matching kind of what we're seeing in real life on the racetrack, and just trying to connect the dots to build a better product at the end of the day. So it's enjoyable for me because I'm getting time back in an IndyCar, and I'm feeling back up to speed, which is great. And my first time coming back, even on the sim, you forget how fast these cars are. So it's just been awesome to kind of feel like I'm back part of a team again. It was hard to come and walk around just spectating. So to have a purpose at a racetrack again is really nice.
And finally, now that you've had the perspective of a race fan almost, or a spotter or what have you, and you get to see these cars from a different perspective, not inside the cockpit, does it give you a greater appreciation for the things that you've done in your career?
Oh, of course. I mean, again, I'll say it, sitting here watching, you forget how fast these things are, because once you're in it every weekend, you have a tendency for your mind to slow it down. But man, it's just, there's nothing like being on the racetrack. There's nothing like being here at Indianapolis and just being amongst family. I mean, it's so great to be back. I'm thankful every day to be here, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.
I know we at the Radio Network think of you as family as well. Great to catch up with you, Zach.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a good one.
And, just a phone call saying, hey, I believe there's somebody that he was connected with through his church. Do you know anybody who might know somebody? And a few phone calls later, and quite frankly, if memory serves me correctly, that's how Gamebridge got here.
That's how Gamebridge got here. Yeah. It was all introduced by Zach Beach, brought him to the Andretti team, and was able to drive there for them a couple years. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened. It didn't look pretty from the outside looking in on how they how Zach is not there anymore, and was able to bring that sponsor. But what a good kid. We've always liked Zach. Yeah, how can you not like him? He's a pleasant kid to be around. He's a great racing driver. It's fun. He drives two-seaters with us as well. And, he's got a smile on his face and is enjoying life.
I think, I think he's approached it the right way. I mean, there were a lot of hurt feelings there, although he took the high road in the departure.
Yeah.
Never aired the laundry in public, which is a smart thing to do, and not burn any bridges, and kind of hit the reset button, and now he's back at the racetrack, and you never know when the opportunity might present itself. I mean, I remember when his career had essentially stalled, and we started using him for various things, and just him being around the racetrack but led to him get the opportunity to fill in for J.R. Hildebrand and Barber one.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you never know. He's at that McLaren team. They may have some ideas for him and some opportunities. We'll have to wait and see. But he did a lot of things out of his comfort zone. He got in a dirt sprint car,
right.
Wing dirt sprint car, went to Ohio and ran a few of those, and we had some conversation about that, how to approach it, and what he felt, and he was pretty excited. He couldn't believe, that was so out of his realm that it was just something he never thought he would do or never knew how to do, but he had fun doing it.
Below, Rossi, Lundgaard, Kirkwood, Rahal the top 5, Herta, Lundqvist, Dixon, Armstrong, and Power the top 10. Malukas 11th, Rosenquist 12th, DeFrancesco 13th, Castroneves 14th. Award 15th, Ferrucci, Harvey, Erickson, McLaughlin, VK through 20th, Grosjean, Newgarden, Canapino, Eilert, Robb, Benjamin Peterson, Ryan Hunter-Ray. He mentioned, of course, Billy Vincent, who's been with that team for a few years now. You talk about a guy that's got the racing pumping through his veins.
Yeah, no, that's all.
Anything and everything he's involved in, one
involved,
form or another.
Yeah.
And at grassroots, too. I mean, he's
Absolutely.
hugely involved with supporting Carters, especially.
Yeah, no, he started from the bottom, worked his way up, and never forgot where he came from. Never, loves all the lower level racings that he was involved with, and that's why he's with that team. I think that when you find somebody that has that much passion for motorsports, no matter what, you're absolutely gonna find a way to be successful, and I think that's what McLaren's seen in him. And now that I look right here, one guy that we talked about that is moving somewhere else, that's Malukas. And Malukas is, I don't know where he's going to end up. We have some ideas. But I'll tell you, last week at Nashville with his rear wing, looks like there was a delamination or an issue with some fire that got heat.
Apparently there was an onboard fire.
And that wing breaking off. Pretty masterful little job of driving he did coming off that bridge at a high speed, and
that does affect the rear grip a little bit, doesn't it? When that wing falls off.
When that wing disappears like that, boy, you are absolutely hanging on. And he did a good job by salvaging that. Don't know exactly. I've heard a few rumors of what went on with that wing, and some heat was back there on that the wing pillars, but hopefully they got that all figured out, fixed.
Lundqvist, again, with the benefit of the extra set of tires, has turned 22 laps in this session. About everybody in double figures. Pato O'Ward is on the verge of getting there. And Alex Palou, Alexander Rossi, the two guys that you expect to see at the top of timing and score.
Yeah, I did see a little issue with Pato, it looked like, and McLaughlin down there going into turn 7 and kind of gesturing and hand waving at each other. It's something something was going on. They were both really slow, but I'm sure they get it figured out. Watch Colton Herta right now down in turn 1, turns in, locks that right front tire up, sees he's not going to make it, goes straight. They got a nice little runoff area up onto which is our turn 4 that you turn down, go to a little safety area and back on track.
If Colton Herta is going to overshoot a turn here, it seems like it's always turn 1.
Yeah.
I never see Colton Herta with an off anywhere else on this racetrack than turn 1.
But he's had a lot of them down there. You're right. I mean, he really, really tests that brake zone down there, especially early on in these practice sessions, just to see if he can find that limit sooner than later. Try to get the brake bias right, try to figure out how he can get in that corner just a little bit deeper, but he has had issues with it. And by the way, this weekend he has a great pit stall. I think he's qualified second. You get your pit spots after the previous qualified at the previous race, so he was second quick in Nashville, and I think is second or third. But yeah, looks like he's second in line right there. So good pits.
I just got an aerial view of this place, view of our monitor, and Dave, you got to look at that short track they've built. Turn number 3. It's now a more permanent structure, and you want to let folks know that plenty of racing left throughout the course of this year here, of course. But one of the things that you want to circle on your calendar coming up in September, well, the BC 39 arrives at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
That's right, standalone event named after Brian Clausen, late Brian Clausen, 39 lap midget race, brings in hundreds of midgets, by the way. I mean, it seems like everybody comes and gives it a try. We've had IndyCar guys, NASCAR guys, the full-time midget guys over there. But what a great they built a track, permanent track, not permanent grandstands, but they'll have them wrapped around that track, and what a great event to come and watch.
21 minutes remaining in this session. Alex Palou continues P1. Then it's Rossi, Lundgaard, Kirkwood, Rahal the top 5, Herta, Lundqvist, Dixon, Armstrong and Power through 10th, then Malukas, Rosenqvist, DeFrancesco, Elio Castro Neves, and Pato O'Ward. Davey, throughout the course of the season, we've been keeping track of the Firestone Pit Performance Award, the Pit Stop Performance Award, sponsored by Firestone. Will Power's team had that lead for most of the season, and there is now a tie. And to the surprise of no one, Will Power's team is now tied with the Wolfpack. Scott Dixon.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, 2 teams always at that pit stop practice is a daily routine for them in their shops, just to make sure they stay on top of it. And we know how important they are, and as competitive as they are on racetrack, it's every bit as competitive as that when it comes to pit stops.
We do want to make mention again of the schedule today. Indy Next, presented by Firestone, comes your way at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Then at 12:30 this afternoon, IndyCar Quals. And then at 2:20 this afternoon, we'll have Indy Next qualifying. A busy day here, and then get a bit of a break. And at 4 o'clock Eastern, the final warm-up session for the NTT IndyCar Series, and then the Indy Next race at 4:45. And then Davey, a busy day tomorrow. NASCAR Cup practice and qualifying, the IndyCar race, and the NASCAR Xfinity race, and then, of course, flag-to-flag coverage of the Cup race on Sunday.
Yeah, busy weekend, and nobody in this booth gets a break, that's for sure. When we get a little break, I'm down doing 2-seaters, and tomorrow when I get a break, you guys are full-time with all the NASCAR stuff. So this booth's going to be full, and everybody's going to be working hard this weekend. But what better place to do it, and what better place to be?
We talked about all of the things involving the Leader Circle money, and we talked about the fact that guys are driving for their futures. But from a team standpoint, with drivers, of course, maybe having a focus on solidifying an effort with a current team or moving on to another team. From a team standpoint, some of these teams that maybe have struggled a little bit, not put forth the kind of year that they had hoped to put forth. I think we're starting to get to the point in the season where they want positive results and gain some momentum and have some positive things. You don't want to focus on all negative during the offseason. You mentioned Colton Herta. I think Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan has seen some improvement over the second half of the season. They'd like for that to continue. I really think Earl McLaren thought they would be in championship contention, and for whatever the reason, it's been a second half fade for that team as a whole a bit.
Yeah, right now, I think with 4 races left, you're exactly right. Those teams that know they don't have the opportunity for the championship, it's like, okay, what we have to have some results. Let's end the season on a good note. Let's end the season with, if we can't get the wins, let's be up front, let's be consistent, let's learn something from this year and try to carry it into next year. And there's a lot of teams, but we mentioned a lot of them that have that. Matter of fact, we talked to AJ, Larry Foyt. They need to have a few results. Obviously, Ferrucci ran 3rd in Indy 500, so I'm pretty sure they'd like to turn this race into an oval race and go the other direction right now, because as fast as they were. But also, he's 16th right now. That is an improvement for that Foyt team right now. Ferrucci in that 16th position, as you said. Rahal, Letterman, they do have a win this year. They have something to look at.
Right.
And right now, Graham Rahal 6th today. I think that they are slowly getting that team going the right direction. But let's look at the other one, I think, is Ed Carpenter Racing. We talked about that. BK right now, 20th. Ryan Hunter Ray, 27th. That's another team that really needs to have some luck. It'd be nice to have some results at the end of the season, so they have a little momentum going into the next season.
Well, you talk about the investment and all of the headlines about Earl McLaren and how they want to up their game and be a part of the quote-unquote Big Three. Pato O'Ward is 6th in points. Alexander Rossi, 11th. Felix Rosenqvist is 13th.
Yeah, and so I look at this. They've had some speed. But their luck, it needs to, shine on that team. And I'll start with Rosenqvist.
Yeah, it's not average start; it's average finish.
That's right. Rosenqvist he's P1 right now. He just went to P1. We know he has speed. We've seen him, almost win the Indy 500. It's just at the end of the races, just can't put a seal on it. We've seen him in Nashville last week. Nothing of his doing. He was the wrong place, the wrong time. Gets put in the fence. There's been about 4 or 5 occasions on his side that is an issue. We've seen Pato O'Ward, same kind of thing, just maybe some mistakes, just overdriving maybe a little bit, just didn't have some luck that he needed. And Rossi, we've seen speed with him, but no real good results. Although he sits P3 right now, no good finishing results. But I put that, it's sometimes hard to go to a new team, and I think Rossi's just kind of filling that out.
Right.
Being a third car, it's new for that team, having 3 cars instead of 2. So, yeah, they're not where they want to be.
Yeah, once Simon Pagenaud got comfortable at Penske Racing, he had a pretty good year in that second year for sure. Well, Connor Daly is here this weekend. He's racing, but in a different form, Ryan Marine.
That's right. No IndyCar ride for Connor Daly this weekend, although he is checking in with the team he drove for most recently, Meyer Shank Racing. But you are in the Xfinity Series race for Alpha Prime Racing here later on this weekend. How did that come about?
Well, honestly, Tommy Joe Martins just gave me a call and asked me to drive. So, thankfully, as this year has gone, people do want to employ me to drive cars, which is nice, and I'm super pumped to do it. You know what I mean? This is a track, obviously, that I know well and that I've had, a lot of success at. I would say both on the oval and the road course, we've qualified really well here. Had a lot of races that should have gone our way but didn't. But either way, we've been fast, and it's a home track, so it all worked. And you had a couple great partners that were already involved and ready to be supportive of the effort. So pretty cool to do. I mean, I'll say yes to drive pretty much anything.
If I've got the story right, the idea initially was to run Road America, but you said, I'd rather run at Indy. Is that right?
Well, I think as a team, they got to shuffle things around so they can make things work correctly. And I don't know how it all worked, but when he asked me if I wanted to run Indy instead, I was like, you know what? Yes, that sounds great. Because if I was here and not racing anything, that's a tough mental battle. So, even today, right now, is really hard to watch. But I know that I get to drive tomorrow, so that'll be nice.
Not much time, though, to get used to the Xfinity car before you go racing. Of course, you've done it before, but how do you try and maximize the limited time that you can and adapt to a track that you know, but in a car that you really don't?
Yeah, 5 years ago was my only Xfinity race, so it's a bit of a different one. But, one practice session. But that's kind of how it's gone when I've done anything in NASCAR. I mean, there's been, even the Cup races this year, the Daytona 500 I had no practice for. The COTA race, we had 1 practice, but it was 10 minutes. So, there's been a lot of lack of track time, but realistically, I kind of have a feel for those stock cars and the heavy cars now, and it's just about the details, fine-tuning the details.
Is it helpful to have raced a lot here, had success here on this road course in a much different car, or in some ways, does that create some habits that you're going to have to break when you jump in the heavy stock car?
Honestly, it will create some, there will be some habits that I'll have to break for sure, because I'll attack every corner like I think we do in the IndyCar, but I do have enough experience now, I think, to understand that it is a very different platform, and it does help a lot to have the experience that I have at this track, because it is a very difficult track to really perfect, and there are certain places that have grip, certain places that don't, that you need to use, but I can't wait, honestly. I'm pumped about it. The team is, we're going to try to, give the team their best finish of the season, which is, I think, like their best finish so far, I think, is like 19th. So we got to do a little bit better than that, and that'll be the goal.
Last thing, how many different types of cars have you raced on this road course, or at least attempted to race? Because I think you were supposed to drive a GT4 car a few years ago, and maybe it was out before you got in. You've, of course, done the IndyCar. Now you're going to do the Xfinity car. Is there anything else?
Well, racing-wise, I've only raced the IndyCar, and then I did race the GT4 car here. I don't think I've raced anything else here, honestly, yet, but I've driven a lot of random stuff here that some you might not even know about. But
let's hear. Tell us.
I can't, but it's been fun to, this is my favorite track. I mean, I love this track. So, qualifying here in IndyCar is one of the most fun experiences because the field is tighter here than I think it is almost anywhere else. And, I'll always remember qualifying, or, in Q1 here, just like last year, 2 years ago, P1 and Q1, and Will Power was P2, and him afterwards saying, man, I thought I did a really good lap. And I was like, well, shoot, Will Power's pretty good at qualifying here. So I feel that one is lodged in my memory as a happy experience at this track.
On your podcast, Speed Street, you like to put people on the spot and make predictions. So I'm going to do the same to you. Who's winning this IndyCar race?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say the McLarens are fast. Lundgaard is super fast here, and Lundgaard knows he's a winner now. Can I give you like a podium prediction?
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know who's going to win, but I think Alex Rossi needs a podium, and I think he's going to get one. I think Lundgaard going to be on the podium again, and Alex Palou. I mean, just because he's Alex Palou.
Why not?
Yeah.
All right.
Any of those three guys are going to be somewhere on the podium.
Thanks so much for the time, Connor. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Connor Daly taking a look at his crystal ball and seeing who might be on the podium for the race tomorrow. And tough position for him to be in, Davey, but as he learned earlier this season when he showed up at Mid-Ohio shortly after the decision was made, in order to have the opportunity, you got to be around and people have to see you.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, hey, that's a tough hit for Connor. You know what I mean? Being pulled out of a car, mid-season like that, and knowing that he's a racing driver, has passion to do it. There's not a lot of rides available, but you know what? He, you just have to keep showing up. And it's paying off for him. And Connor does a good job. Like I say, he's very confident around this race course. So he gets to race an Xfinity car. I think that's really cool to venture out, try different things. That's one thing with Jimmy Johnson. Once he retired, what did he want to do? He wanted to venture out and try different things. And maybe that's where Connor is right now. Don't know that we see him back in an IndyCar on a full-time basis with all the moving and shaking going on for next year, but you just never know that as well. But hey, good guy. He's had a good run. He has nothing to be ashamed of or look down at it, and just stay positive and go race.
Well, and I think as we discussed, bottom line is this: I think since the change was made, for sure, his average finishing position was 18th, and Ryan Hunter-Reay's average finish position has been 19th.
Yeah.
So it's not all tied to the driver.
That's exactly right. There's issues, and I think that was a thing that the Ed Carpenter team tried to put across. This isn't about really Connor. It's about, we felt we needed a more veteran driver that's been there, that's done it, that's won championships, that's won Indy 500s, to give them an opportunity to try to fix the team and where the problems are. So they're not saying, hey, we're slow because of Connor in the car. That was not it. It was just saying, hey, we're slow because our cars aren't good, and we need to try to fix that issue. And they weren't getting maybe the input as a veteran, as like I say, that Ryan Hunter-Reay was to give it to him.
Benjamin Peterson benefiting from the fact that rookies get an extra set of Firestone
Firehawks. That's 2 or 3 sets that he's definitely flattened out, because we've seen him a lot of brake smoke around that car so far.
Okay, Davey, 9 minutes remaining in this session. With the 15 minutes left, we started to see that icon start to line up. Now with qualifying a little bit later on today, this is the only tune-up, so this is an opportunity for them to see just how they'll be able to do in their qualifying sims with the alternates.
Yeah, they got the alternate tires on, softer compound. Who goes to the top? Graham Rahal. We talked about that Rahal team, that they need a little bit of luck. They did win this race with Lundgaard. So right now you got 2 Rahal cars in the top 3. Rahal leading it, Rosenquist second, Lundgaard third. Pretty good opportunity for that team to maybe take advantage of that win earlier this season and try maybe get 2 of those Rahal cars on the podium. Be pretty cool to see. Like to see Graham in victory lane, obviously. After his father Bobby wins a lot of races. Graham hasn't been in victory lane for a while. He's still hungry, still wants it. He even talked about switching teams. So this, a win in this team for himself, his own family team, would be great to try to secure him back in that ride.
So when they come onto pit road and they get ready to do that qualifying sim, and they put those alternates on, describe what adjustments, if any, are made by the crew over the wall. Or are the adjustments in this particular scenario made strictly with the tools in the car?
Yeah, it's pretty much just tools in the car. They're not going to do any spring changes or any damper changes. Usually just wing changes. Normally nose wing changes. And a lot of time I see, once the softer compound alternate tire goes on, they take a little nose wing out of the car, meaning that front tire is going to give them a little more grip, a little more turn in, and so it doesn't get it loose, so it gives you overall grip. So normally that's what happens. Another thing, as we've seen in the past, is this, I'm sure, we'll have to talk to Firestone to make triple sure, but it's the same tire that they ran here earlier this year as far as the alternate is concerned. At one point, the alternate was the tire to run here. They tried to run them as much as they could because they really lasted well. They had more speed in them. I think that's kind of turned around, where that primary tire is the tire to run, especially in the race for the longer stints. But this red tire here seems to last pretty darn good throughout the run.
Camera mounted in the front nose of Joseph Newgarden's car, which was a silly thing to say. I suppose that's opposite of the rear nose. But anyway, it's right at track level, Davey, and that's just we've watched that for a lap now, and that's a cool shot.
Yeah, it's a great shot because you can't see any of the car whatsoever. All you see is racetrack, and right on top of it kind of gives you a real indication of the speed and where the line is and so forth. So pretty cool. And right now, looking at that, we watched him. He is on the red tires, the alternate tire, the softer compound. P22, Newgarden, second in the championship. We know how he's dominated the ovals this year, but he needs to, to stay in contention, needs to find a little more speed here at the Indy Road Course.
I don't recall ever having a view like this at Belle Isle, Davey.
Yeah,
I don't know that the camera
for
would have
one,
made
because
it
it'd make you dizzy. You think that you've been drinking because of the bumps, and you think, man, am I drinking or is that cameraman off, because of the bumps? But the one thing that's mentioned that about this road course and how smooth it is. I mean, it's unbelievable smooth. It's silky smooth. They've done such a fabulous job, but when it comes to paving this place, and just like anything, when it's done at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it's done properly. And the contractors that came in to do anything here, they're the top and the best of their business, and this road course is outstanding.
Hey, let's give credit where credit's due. This guy could win on any course, and he's proven that. But boy, I tell you, if there's an oval specialist in this series, I don't know that anybody really comes close to this guy right now, Davey. I mean, he is reaching Rick Mears and Sam Hornish Jr. level mastery of ovals. I think. I
agree. I absolutely agree. And and it kind of snuck up on it, right? Because he wins everything. He's got wins, plenty of wins, and he knows how to get the job done. Now has the Indy 500 underneath his belt. Confidence is there. The team's obviously there, but you're right. He right now is the guy, isn't he, on these ovals? I mean, we see Colton Herta make another mistake down in that little kink onto the back straightaways you talked about, going on Homeland Boulevard. Misses the turn in 4 and 5.
He just as soon not go to the north end, I think. If he can find a way around it, let's just stay away from the north end if you're Colton Herta.
Yeah, that was on the red alternate tire when he tried to lay one down. Sits P21 right now. See where his teammates were laying out. Andretti doesn't seem to. Kirkwood's in that P14 position. You got, we see Grosjean in P17. DeFrancesco, he's actually DeFrancesco, the fastest of the Andretti team right now, in P10.
So Ray Hall, as Davey told you, then Rosenquist and Lundgaard, Rossi, Alex Palou, the top 5, McLaughlin, Dixon, Award, Erickson, DeFrancesco through 10th, Jack Harvey 11th, Armstrong 12th. Lundquist is 13th, Kirkwood is 14th, 15th, Elio Castroneves, 16th, Maluka, 17th, Grosjean, 18th, Ferrucci, 19th, Power, 20th, VK, 21st, Herta, 22nd, Hunter Ray, 23rd, Newgarden, 24th, Eilert. Canapino is 25th. Stingray Robb is 26th. Benjamin Peterson 27th. A relatively clean session with 3 minutes and 33 seconds left. So, Davey, not much of a turnaround time for these teams and drivers. The debrief is going to have to be rather abrupt when this session is over, and whatever the changes are going to make to the race car, they just simply do not have a lot of time to pull that off, because at 12:30 Eastern, they'll have to qualify.
Yeah, and one thing I look at, I think, I want to look at the team part of it. Is Ray Hall, obviously first and third, so they're going to go back to their truck. They have really good data. They're fast. Should be fairly easy. You got Rosenquist and Rossi, second, fourth, so that McLaren team, good data there as well. Then you got the 5th place car of Ganassi with Palou. You know that they're going to look at that. Dixon's in 7th. Then you got Penske cars, McLaughlin in 6th, but no real helpers with him. Power is back at 20th, Newgarden in 24th, so that Penske team seems like they may have a little bit of a struggle there. But between Ray Hall, Arrow McLaren, and Ganassi, it seems like they're going to be the ones, those teams in general are going to be the ones. They really fill the roster out between the first 9 spots, other than the one car McLaughlin in the middle.
Yeah, and let's face it, when you start deep in the field here, it certainly affects how you set that race strategy up and how you stack those tires in terms of when you use the alternate to the primary.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a pretty straightforward race, Mark. It doesn't look like any weather is coming in, so don't need to worry about rain and rain tires. Newgarden right now getting out of his car, by the way, and at that P24, cannot be happy with that. Already in the session with just a little under 2 minutes left. But, tomorrow, passing, you can do it here. We see there is a lot of excitement, a lot of passing, but, yellows bring excitement on starts and restarts. I expect to see a few of those tomorrow. Right now, it's been very clean. Nobody's put a wheel wrong, and so I think we had Pato was the only one that brought a yellow out for a slight spin and stall. So right now, boy, it looks like Rahal's going to stick it out and be P1. It's going to be a good interview.
15th event being conducted on this road course. It's hard to believe that we've been racing here that long, Davey. And that there are 5 drivers in the series, only 4 this weekend. Simon Pagno's one of them. But the drivers who have appeared in every one of them, Scott Dixon, of course, Joseph Newgarden, Will Power, and Graham Rahal. Those are the drivers that appeared in every road course.
Oh, no, Power wasn't in there. Did Power?
Yeah, he's there.
Oh, Power, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, Power's in there. And
he's owned it a lot of years.
Yeah, a lot of wins between those drivers. And unfortunately, we're going to drop one out with Simon. I know he's had great success here. Matter of fact, I was fortunate enough he was in our car for the very first inaugural win. And so I'll never forget that one, that's for sure. But sad to see that he's going to lose out on that streak.
And Ryan Marine has more on Will Power, in fact, as David Malukas has spun off course.
Well, to your point about Will owning this event, that's absolutely the case. In the 14 runnings of it, he's won 5 times. He's been in this race every single running, and he's led over 30% of the total laps in this road course event, whether it's in the spring or in the fall, in the history of it. He has been the guy to beat, which is why it's a big surprise that we find him so far down on the timing and scoring charts right now.
Almost looked like maybe a mechanical issue from Malukas, Davey. I mean, he wasn't going into that turn at anywhere near full speed as a checkered flag.
Yeah, it looked like the front brakes started to lock up just a little bit, maybe just, even though he didn't have the speed, just maybe got on the brakes a little bit late. Started to lock that tire up. It just went off in the runoff area. There were cars behind him. I think he was just being really courteous, to be honest with you, and just to sit there until they came by and kind of spun around and continued on.
Yeah, he did continue on, and he is headed back to the pits now with the rest of the field. As, again, the checkered flag flies on a rather uneventful session, a very clean session, and they'll go qualifying a little bit later on this afternoon. So Graham Rahal got to feel good about the fact that he is P1 as he pulls that car back into the attention of his crew. Rosenquist second quick. Lundgaard is third quick. Then Rossi and Palou the top 5. It's McLaughlin, Dixon, Award, Erickson, and DeFrancesco 10th quick. Marcus Armstrong has been in the top 10 for most of the session. He settles in at 11th. Jack Harvey is 12th. Linus Lundqvist is 13th. Kyle Kirkwood is 14th. Castro Neves is 15th. Malukas, Grosjean, Ferrucci, Eilot, and Power through 20th. Then VK, Herta, Hunter Ray, Newgarden, Canapino, Robb, and Benjamin Peterson. So again, Joseph Newgarden, interesting to see him at 24th, and Herta at 22nd quick, and Will Power at 20th quick.
Yeah, like I said before, the Andretti Penske car is just not all that strong out of the gate right here. Obviously, Malukas 16th, so and Robb in 26th. That team's struggling a little bit. Anytime you're on the right side of our chart means things aren't all that good. And another team, the Uncos Allender team, they won here in Indy Pro, but seem to be struggling a little bit with the IndyCar right now. Eilot 19th, Canapino in 25th.
Who do you like for pole today?
Well, I'm gonna go with Lundgaard again. I think
it's a good choice.
I think Lundgaard, he's P3 in practice right here. I think he has some confidence, and I think that he can get it put together for a pole run.
I don't know what they're up to, but my little bit of experience tells me they're up to something. I don't expect Power and Newgarden to stay where they are. Not saying they're going to be on pole, but I think they might have.
How can you not pick Power most of the time,
That's
right?
right. I mean, yeah. So let's go to pit road, check in with Ryan Marine.
Felix Rosenquist, P2 in the lone practice session, former pole sitter here 2 times on this road course. You happy with your race car, Felix?
Yeah, I think it's tight. It's all about how you get the tires in and the warm-up procedure, and you normally only get one shot at it. I thought the blacks were missing something, kind of worked towards the right direction in the end, and then on the reds, honestly, I wasn't really happy with the laps. I think there's more in it, but yeah, pretty happy with P2 with the feeling I had. So I'm sure we can improve quite a bit on that.
And only one practice and then straight into qualifying in just a few hours. How much do you tweak on this thing before you go qualifying?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things we can do. Normally I think it's a good thing if you're in the front and there's only one session. It's a good thing because the others gonna have to catch up more than us. But man, you should never count anyone out here. It's gonna be super tight like always. It's gonna be on the hundreds or the tens like last time. Christian got me with 3,000s for the pole. So yeah, gotta push hard.
Good luck in qualifying.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Best of luck to Felix Rosenqvist a little bit later on this afternoon when we go qualifying at 12:30 Eastern. In fact, Nick Yeoman climbs in the chair at 11 o'clock Eastern, takes you through Indy next practice. Ryan Marine will be on pit road. Nick and Davey will take you through that practice session as they get set to go qualifying and racing later today. A new name here and there and some guys in different places. They'll sort all of that out for you and preview today in the Indy Next presented by Firestone. Again, Graham Rahal fastest after this initial practice session. Rahal, Rosenqvist, Lundgaard, Rossi, and Alex Below will catch you a little bit later on for qualifying. But again, don't forget, coming up at 11 o'clock Eastern, Indy Next, presented by Firestone Practice. Dick Yeoman, Davey Hamilton, and Ryan Marine. The director of IndyCar Radio is Chris Pollock. Master Control Operations courtesy of Sam Rumsa. Our Chief Engineer is Rick Evans. RF Operations courtesy of Paul Levin. For Ryan Marine, Davey Hamilton, our thanks to Louis Frank for joining us today. I'm Mark Janes. So long for now from the world's greatest race course, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.